Sometimes you become unhappy for no reason, and not knowing the why actually adds to your frustration. In my experience, self-diagnosing often solves the problem by 50% because it shifts you out of the nameless dread into a productive problem-solving mode. This is an essential skill anyone needs to master for emotional regulation, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very simple because you only need to ask yourself 3 questions, and by the end of it, you will often be able to find out what actually causes your emotional dysregulation. So start with the most basic question. Have you fed yourself well and slept well? Have you been getting enough sunlight or water? I know this question may sound like a question to a plant, like we're plants, right? But we often overlook how physical discomfort can cause negative physiological experiences, negative emotional experiences. When you're cold, when you have cold feet or cold hands, when you lack sleep, when you're exhausted, it's very likely that your brain is going to get sluggish and your mood is going to get really low, especially for autumn, winter, gray days or rainy days with reduced sunlight. You could even see the pattern yourself. For example, in the afternoon, it's very easy for you to get irritable when your body starts to drop into low blood sugar mode. You also tend to get very reactive to your partner, waitress, or someone at your work when you didn't get a good night's sleep. Or if you're someone on a diet and you didn't get enough carbs for the night, then it's very easy for you to find it hard to settle down at night and find it hard to fall asleep. Those are all examples of how physical discomfort can cause you negative emotional experiences. Combining with things I'm about to mention later in this video, they can all send you to the edge easily, especially if you have a highly sensitive nervous system which could be easily dysregulated and require extra self-care. But if you are rested well, you could most likely be able to handle the little stressors, little stimuluses from the outside, like somebody cutting in front of you, being rude to you, or random pop-up meetings. But if you're not in the best mood, then it's another story. The second question is to ask yourself, have you been disallowing yourself? In other words, if there's something running in the back of your head without you even realizing that, for example, you have been procrastinating on something, but your inner critic is yelling at you, saying that you're lazy, you're a piece of shit, that you never follow things through. Or if there are mental inner conflicts that's actually taking up your energy. For example, you've been unhappy for a while, but you keep telling yourself to cheer up, you shouldn't be unhappy. Or lately you have been kind of grumpy and you lashed out in some occasions. And then there's voices yelling at you for being uncivil, for being rude. So the context of this thing doesn't really matter. Not allowing and fighting against part of yourself, fighting against the inner critics or parts of yourself becomes a bigger issue here, because under this state, it causes you so much mental exhaustion, and those inner conflicts are taking up the majority of your energy. You naturally lose focus on yourself. You naturally couldn't be able to get into caretaking mode. The cure here is to try allowing. It's okay to be unhappy for a while. Nobody is 100% happy all the time. No human beings does that. And normal state of a human being is that we have emotional fluctuations. We face daily triggers, we face daily stressors. We have the greatest energy in the morning, and then throughout the day, it just kind of declines. It's okay to be grumpy, upset, or even rude for a while when you're not in best mood. You don't have to blame yourself. You don't have to require yourself to behave, to be, polite, to be nice to people all the time. Another thing that adds to the emotional dysregulation is the fact that we have catastrophic thinking because we believe a tiny bit of thing could ruin our lives. For example, somebody taking too long with a cashier. A customer service is really clumsy and taking too much time. I used to be very guilty of doing this because whenever things don't go in my way, I would blame that person. I would be so angry, so reactive. I may even lash out to innocent people. After years of therapy, I started to have more compassion for myself and for my behaviors, because I understand that in the moment when I lash out on people, when I try to find someone to blame, try to find something to be responsible for my situation right now, It's me being vulnerable and helpless. So I become a child again. I have to find someone to blame, to yell, to release my anger on, so that I can defend against the helpless feeling that I am feeling right now. So a very important message here I wanted to send it to you is that don't be too harsh on yourself when you couldn't show up 100% for someone else, or when you couldn't really find the compassion for yourself, when you find it hard to regulate your emotions, when you find it hard to be happy, to be at peace all the time. It's okay. We're human beings. We don't have to do 100%. 70% is enough. The last question is to check with yourself. Have there been any triggers that evoke you of those unpleasant emotional experiences? Triggers can be very subtle. So a lot of times when you're unhappy, you're actually being triggered by some kind of scent from your childhood, by some sort of memory, by an image you saw, by the person that reminds you of some occasion from the past. Managing triggers is a very important part of emotional regulation if you have those mini traumas from childhood, from your cultural background, or from the environment that kept you hyper-vigilant all the time. One thing you need to know to strike out the shame is that everybody gets triggered. There's no 100% perfect human being who don't get triggered at all. Let's say hypothetically, this is how your day looks like. You wake up in the morning, you open your phone, and then you get swamped by all sorts of app notifications, an active feed from social media. That gets you stuck on a loop. They don't paralyze you, but they keep running at the back of your head and it consumes you. For example, someone on Facebook or Instagram posted about them finishing up their law degree or doctorate degree. That reminds you of the dream you long for but you couldn't have. Meanwhile, there's too much negative headlines on all sorts of news coverage like financial crisis or COVID lockdown. Those things can trigger people's deepest and primitive fear of inner crisis, of survival, especially if you grew up in those chaotic environment where you don't know who to turn to for food, for water, for comfort. So you turn to the entertainment page because you want to chill yourself out, just don't be so stressed. And then you saw those celebrities who live their life very publicly. It could trigger our jealousy of them living their full life while us being stuck in this emotional dysregulation, right? Or you noticed some celebrity gets cheated on, and that triggers your deepest belief that all men are bad. Nobody can be counted on. Everybody leaves in the end. And then you carry those mental fights, those mental exhaustions, all those stimulus from the morning to work, where you may get your boundary violated when you try to people please someone. You may accept someone giving you, dumping you this unfair share of work. You may also let your boss's impatient tone or poker face get to you because it triggers your deep sense of unworthiness, just like how your parents made you feel when you were a child. Triggers can be also very personal. That is why I talk a lot about triggers in my channel for you to explore. If you're interested in vulnerability triggers, I'm gonna put my videos up here somewhere. I'll see you there. Bye bye.